Alright, so I know it's been a long time since I've done a video, and I've accomplished a lot, and there's a lot to talk about. I'm going to show y'all what I've been doing, what I've got going on today, and just a quick update on everything that's been, all the progress that I've made. So, primarily I've been working on building this engine up. Bought it off Facebook Marketplace about 2 months ago, and it is a small block 350. That's actually a 355. It's a 39700 010 block. I'm using this as a donor motor to play around with my draw sump oil system, because there's a few questions I've had that nobody seems to be able to answer about how it circulates through the system. And there is a plug that separates the oil coming in or coming out of the pump and going through the filter, and whether I need that or not. So I'd rather test it on this $500 engine versus the engine I planned on building and grenading a $5, $6, $7, $8, $9, $10,000 engine, however much that overall cost comes out to be. Now I am running all my accessory drives off that. Finding a belt to power my power steering pump was god awful. I'm using a ICT billet location for the power steering pump. However, I reverse engineered that and added the mount for my draw sump oil pump and integrated those two items to the same mount, and took a few weeks to design that and have it made. There's probably 3 or 4 different pieces of aluminum sandwiched together, welded, and a little bit of CNC machine work. I've got my drive manual worked out. These pieces were turned on a lathe, and I've got that spaced out. I'm just waiting on my belt to come in. Currently in a CNC class with a TCAT, and this is the first part that I've ever made on a CNC mill. Not the best work. There's a few flaws in my program. However, I'm learning a little bit at a time. Drew up that part, did the tool paths on it, and then machined it myself. So I'm pretty proud of how that turned out. The valve covers on here are some that I've had laying around for the better part of 10 years. They've been on several builds, not using those. My valve covers that I have, I'm waiting on a friend of mine to weld some tabs on it. That way I can mount my plug wire looms on top of the valve covers. Y'all see that in another video later on. See here, let me step outside of the truck. So I've got the bed mounted, the front clips mounted. The cab is 100% bolted on. The bed has 2 of the 4 holes drilled to mount it. And I've got carriage bolts on the front side, which I've got a bunch of household items sitting there because I'm about to move here in a few weeks. I've got to do a little bit more clearancing on this firewall. I run into an issue with the current intake / spacer and breather setup for it. And I've got to take another probably 1/4 to a 1/2 inch. I'm going to take another 1/2 inch out of this right here for the height. Just got through re-drilling the motor mount holes right there where the bolts pass through to hold the motor in place. That way I can have a little wiggle room and can better align it with my rear differential. I've got to take my custom fabricated cross member out and put another piece in it, or I need to raise up the tail of the transmission about 1.5 inches to 2 inches. That way it clears a little bit better and the pinion angle's closer to 0. Yeah, I've made a lot of progress on this beast. I'm so happy to be here and doing it today. It's not the best day to be working, but at least it's cool outside. I am dealing with a occasional scattered shower, but that's not the worst thing in the world. At least it's not 95 to 105 degrees out here. Some of the work I've been doing has been miserable just because of the heat here in Clarksville. Anyway, once I get that piece cut, I'll get back to you in a few. So, just got the parts back from a welder. This is the next day. Continuation of the video I took yesterday. And that's my seat bracket. A little bit overkill, but it's what I had laying around, and I got a decent price on this 2x2 1/8" wall square tubing. So I did that. Got it painted today. Actually, just a few minutes ago. I'm gonna put one more coat on it, maybe a little bit more. I also got my transmission cross member back, and added this piece right here to raise up the tail of the transmission about 2 inches, and I might put another spacer in there yet. Just see how my carburetor sits on there. I want it to be pretty much level within a degree or two, with the back of it being just a little bit lower, and with that 2-inch spacer it should be around 3 degrees on the negative side, the back side being lower than the front. And right at the moment I am cleaning out my cab. I got a bunch of nuts, bolts, a bunch of metal flakes that have been rusting on the surface of the paint. Need to get that cleaned up before it causes other problems. All this little junk here. Once I get done with that, I'm going to put that seat bracket in there, figure out what height I need to mount it off the floorboard. That way I can have my seats mounted and figure out where they're going to sit, somewhere up in here. Which the buckets are high backs, and I expect them to come up to probably about this line right here in the back window, which is fine with me. One step closer. Sometime next paycheck, I'm planning on ordering my steering column, and I can start getting that cut in. Like, probably cut this piece of sheet metal out that's got all these holes in it and go back with something fresh. That way I can figure out exactly where it's going to pass through the firewall in there. Anyway, I'll give you a little update here in a few minutes. I'm not going to mess with that firewall, but I am going to get these installed in the seats, just set in there, just to see where they're going to sit, and formulate a plan on how I'm going to mount that to the floor pan and go from there. Now I got this cab cleaned out pretty good. Still got a little bit of work to do, but I'm not going to take the time today to get a wet rag and wipe all this extra little bit of dust off. This is good enough for what I need to accomplish for the day. Anyhow, I'm fixing to take this big ass mount, slide it up in there, and get it leveled and set my seats on top of it, find out where they're going to sit. That way I can start drilling holes in that bracket. Probably not going to get to that today, but we'll see how it goes. Alright, got my seats mocked up somewhat. I still got to do a pretty good bit of adjusting, but now I got an idea of how things are going to sit, where shit's going to be. Yeah, sat here doing my thing, enjoying my Saturday morning. Feeling pretty good about my little accomplishment. I know they look different in there right now. It's because one of them's leaned way back, the other one's sitting sitting more erect. Anyway, that's the project for the day. I think I'm fixing to wrap it up, though. It's starting to sprinkle a little bit, and I don't want my interior or my seats to get wet. Well, wet interior. I don't want any of the sheet metal to get wet to create more rust than it's already there, which 95% of it, maybe 99%, is surface rust, so I'm not too worried about it. And clean it up with a wire wheel and a little bit of paint, but I don't want it to get any more oxygen than it already does from ambient air. Anyway, that's it for the day, and I think that concludes this video. Until next time, I'm out. Oh, and by the way, I will be posting more videos than I have been here recently. I've just been really, really busy. All right then.